Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Samantha and today's video is going to be on how to begin to live through the heart. So the heart or the heart space has several scientific studies done, and it also has scientific evidence suggesting that our heart actually knows more than our brain and our gut, or what some people call as intuition. They feel it usually in their womb or stomach area. So your heart space is a term that's used basically to live through the child or your inner child. So people that live through the heart space typically have a difficult time finding their way within life. People that live through the heart space can be called several different things: faunas, empaths, highly sensitive individuals, the highly sensitive or sensitive people. So oftentimes these people are really perplexed on why their surroundings are the way that they are. Our culture is basically based on intellectualizing everything, or thinking our way through life and problem solving and solutions. So a person that has a very large heart space or lives within the heart doesn't actually view their environment that way, so it becomes really difficult for them to fit in, quote unquote. So oftentimes these people struggle with loneliness. The reason why people that live through the heart or the heart space are considered childlike or have a childlike nature is because children are often associated with compassion, altruism, the ability to be giving, community-oriented. And so this is where you see that people that live in the heart space, that's their philosophy. So our culture is geared towards too much individualism, disconnection. It's geared towards the ability to always have to think your way through things, achievement. So what happens is, I think these are really great qualities, but what happens is that people get too much in their headspace. And what happens is, when you go along within our life and our society, you become very desensitized, whereas people that live within the heart are not desensitized. They feel things very deeply and to the core. So people that normalize things or think that things are okay the way that they are, people that live within the heart space don't see that. They see that there is a lot of pain where other people don't see pain, and there's a lot of suffering where other people don't see suffering. So the way to step into your heart space is to step out of your head space. So the easiest way that I could establish doing this is, I would like you to imagine your heart in your brain or your mind, right? So your heart has walls, and especially if you deal with either trauma or maybe you've had like past events in your childhood where your heart actually, your walls around the heart actually stiffen or become more difficult. They're not as resilient. So what happens is that love isn't coming in, and you are more in a state of callousness. So over time, you actually believe that this is the way to conduct your life. So I would like you to imagine your deepest need and your deepest want. It goes past a career or job. It goes past your physical, the way that you look like aesthetically. It doesn't have anything to do with money. It's a layer under that. So sometimes it takes a while for people to think of this, because we're accustomed to, what do you want to be when you grow up, or what kind of job do you want? So your heart space isn't geared towards so much achievement. It's more of values and integrity, and it's based within the inner child. So after you have finished figuring out what you want or your deepest need, I would like you to remind yourself that you can have this. And I would like you to imagine that these heart walls, or within your heart space, are receiving what you have actually asked. And I would like you to imagine that it's drinking what you have asked. And imagine a cup being poured onto your heart, and the walls within your heart space kind of drinking this, whatever it is that you want. And I like you to view it as a liquid more than like a food item, because when I think of drinking, I think of our bodies readily receiving it, whereas eating, you chew, you swallow, saliva creates in your mouth. Like when you drink something, your body is more ready to receive it, and it's easier to digest. So let's say my deepest need is to be loved and being able to receive that. Maybe that's something that's really difficult for you to do. And perhaps the walls around your heart have actually closed or stiffened or like hardened. And I would like you to imagine the most pronounced love that you have ever received in your life, or have the ability to know what it's like, and having that poured within your heart space. Now, this will take a couple of times, and you're not going to see a really big difference, but making a practice of this will, in my experience, will kind of have you step into that heart space. And the reason why living in your heart space is important is because it's kind of like your third brain, right? We have our brain within our skull, we have our heart space, and then we have our gut, which also has the ability for intuition, and it has nerve endings, or the ability to receive information. So in a society where our heart space is kind of, it's taught to us that it's not useful, it's difficult to kind of step into that space. This will also give you more clarity within your life about your problems that you have, maybe with yourself, relationships, because your heart space has information. It stores memories, it stores trauma, it stores unhidden hidden parts about yourself, or the ability for you to have an awareness. Also, since the heart is associated with children, I would like to point out that I don't know too many people who don't have something to recover from childhood. And pretty much we have made this like, oh, everybody has issues from childhood. To live in a society where childhood is something to be celebrated and be like, hey, I really had a great childhood. I got a lot of my needs met. I got to flourish as a child and into adult. Most adults today are walking children. If you notice people, they have tantrums, they have breakdowns, they struggle with unmet needs that were not met in childhood. And your childhood is a developmental stage, and if you don't get those needs met in childhood, you're going to, as an adult, try to achieve them later in life, but sometimes you're not even going to realize that you're having these unmet needs. So this is also very helpful when living in a society where maybe we can make it a goal where we don't have to recover from childhood. So my question today is, let's go back to you being as a child and you stepping into the society that we live in. Is this a society that you would want your kid to grow up in? Or you would want your child or your child self to grow up in? Why or why not? And if it's detrimental to a child, it's going to be detrimental to adults. This is oftentimes why a lot of people today struggle with depression. Depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, those are like the norm today, and they are normal, and it is not for people to have the ability to connect with other people on a level that feels safe for them would do wonders for our society. Also, stepping into your heart space will, people that live through the heart or have been more sensitive to the heart space do not have less of the ability to be desensitized. So they either have grown out of the callousness, or they have developed a space where they don't feel as calloused. In today's world, it is very common to have some sort of addiction. And if you don't have an addiction, you will at some point along your lines have to become tougher, or basically have tougher skin. That's what's generally taught to us. So if you're a sensitive person, it's really difficult, nor do we actually want to have tougher skin, because there should be no reason, really. Which brings me to my other point. People that live through the heart space make it a choice to live their life being very fluid, or having the ability to being in a state of being. And the best way I could describe this is they take the path of less suffering, or the well-being to the rest of the group or society. So sometimes people that live through the heart space, they tend to look very sacrificial, but they understand that their healing and their well-being is, if you just focus on your healing and getting quote-unquote better, you're missing half of the puzzle piece. Other people's healing and well-being is going to be your personal healing and well-being. So thank you guys so much for listening, and I do have a couple of podcasts / episodes about the heart and heart space on my podcast titled Eleph Myrrh, and I am on Spotify. I will leave the information in the description box below, and if you would like to book a session with me, I will leave the info in the description box below, guys. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a